welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and this video we're going to be doing a first impressions look at the brand new Airfix 1350 Cromwell. Now, my understanding is that this is the first ever Airfix 1350 new tool armoured fighting vehicle, so I think I heard that off the Airfix website, which surprised me a little bit, but that is my understanding. This has arrived today, date being the 26th of February 2001, and this is just arriving in shops over the next few days. So let's take a look inside and see what we get in the box. Okay, so the box itself is the standard Airfix red box. We've got the usual shout out for the two different types that are going to be depicted within the kit. Then on this side here we've got the skill level, which is 3 and 3 flying hours. Again, the pictures for the paint options. So it says here, 1st Royal Tank Regiment, 7th Armoured Division, British Army, Europe 44-45, or Northamptonshire Yeomanry, 11th Armoured Division, British Army, Europe 44-45. Okay. And the sides are both the same, and then on this end here we've got some warning information. Now my box has arrived and it's not taped down. I have not opened it as yet, so we're going to see this together. Okay, so we've got sand coloured sprue. So we've got 2 sprues in the first bag, 2 sprues in that bag, 2 sprues in that bag, so it's nice to see separate bags. Sprue of tracks, another sprue set, looks like polycaps, photo etch. How often do we see that in an Airfix kit? And this is really interesting. We'll talk about the tracks in a minute, because what Airfix have done I think is brilliant. And then we've got instructions. Right, let's start by talking about the tank tracks. Now, usually when Airfix put out a kit, if you read the sort of warning information on the side of the box, it will say for age 8 and above. This one doesn't. I just had a quick look, and this one says age 14 and above, and the reason for that is the etch. The etch, from health and safety point of view, if you've got etch in it, therefore you've got sharp parts, it has to be 14 and above. So that's why you see that change on the box. But what Airfix have done, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, and other manufacturers should think about this, they have given you 2 different options for the tracks. So we've got the rubber band style tracks, and we've got link and length. Now I have to say the link and length are beautifully moulded. It's nice and crisp detail. There's hardly any ejector pin marks on it, and then you've got individual links that are going to allow you to go around the drive sprockets and the idler wheel. So you get 2 of those, and look, we've got this nice clear sprue designation letter. A bit like, I think it's Take-On that do that, or is it Bandai that do that, and that's a really nice touch. So these are lovely, but if you've not got the skill level to do link or length, or you really don't fancy messing around, there is the rubber band option. So just like you used to get on kits back in the early 80s and late 70s, where you can link it round and put it through. And when I have a look at this, you can see here we have a little rectangle there what passes through, and then 2 little holes the teeth go into, and you're probably a little bit of heat on the back of a tiny screwdriver, and that's done. So you've got this option, which is great for the younger modelers who might find it a little bit too difficult to do the link or length, or you've got the link and length option for the more serious modeler. So I love the fact that there's two options there. I think that's a brilliant idea. Well done to Airfix for that. Fantastic. Right, let's have a look at the rest of it. But these are gorgeous. Right, so we have a little sprue of polycaps. It says polycap on the sprue. They're actually quite hard compared to other polycaps that can be quite soft and flexible. These are actually quite hard, but clearly for the building the road wheels. And then we're taking a look at sprue F. So let's just have a look at this. So we've got underside pan, no ejection pin marks on that. We've got panel detail with rivets, looks really nice. Then we've got, not quite sure what those are, but we've got the front panel, probably the rear panel. Again, lovely rivet detail. Appears to be 3 different types of mantles. And then we've got the sides here. So this looks like inside, interior, exterior maybe. So I don't think this comes with a detailed interior, but we'll see. So we've got some indented fastening detail panel lines. Let's just flip it over. I wonder if these here go into there and are stiffeners for the structure of the hull. I think that's probably the case. And then this appears to be the inside of those. But yeah, so this seems to be all basic hull components. No flash, no sink, and no ejector pin marks that would appear to cause any issues. So really nicely done. Sprue A. So we've got the fenders, the front mantelpiece there. Mine's slightly come away from the sprue there, but it's not damaged. There's a lot of ejector pin marks on the underside, so there will be some filling needed on the underside of the fenders there, but most of that's going to be interior surfaces. The detail is nice. You've got rivets there. You've got the individual panel lines. Once they're filled with paint, they'll be about spot on, I'd imagine. Yeah. There's a small, don't know if you can see that on the camera, on the inside of the bracket there. See if I can improve the light. You can see there's a small moulding lump there that will need to be removed, but that's about the only imperfection I can see on the entirety of that. Otherwise it's lovely and crisp. Sprue B. So we've got this looks like the turret top deck where the turret goes in. We've got vision ports already moulded in, and then we've got the engine deck here at the back. So it's all moulded together, so there's no options for open engine bays, but the hinges are nicely moulded in. Inside of the mantle plate there. Okay, so sprue E now, and we've got toolboxes, I guess they are, with all the hinges nicely picked out. There is, I'm not quite, this part here, part 6, so E6, I'm not quite sure what part that is, but these bits here are causing some quite heavy sink on that. if we can see that in the light. So that's the first sink I've come across. These are the side plates for the front of the fenders, which are really nicely done with all the raised rivet detail. And then we've got more rivet detail on there. This is the engine vent, I think, which is a separate item. Then we've got the rear part of the fender sections here, which is nicely moulded. Nicely detailed around the gun mantle there. The gun is on a little ball joint, and the gun is rifled out. And we've got the tools. The spade is very nicely done. Is that? I thought there was an imperfection there, but there's not. And we've got a separate pickaxe handle, crowbar, and then you've got this blade that goes on the front, which is an option. Really like the look of the blade there. I'll be putting that on mine without a shadow of a doubt. Let's have a look on the other side. So there's some injector pin marks that we'll need to deal with on the inside of the fender parts there. And the same there. Otherwise, I think we appear to have done a pretty good job. Airfix have done a pretty good job of removing ejector marks from places that are going to be viewed. It's all very crisp. Now, I'm no expert on the Cromwell tank, so I don't know how accurate this is. We're just having a look at what comes in the box. D now. So we've got the top of the turret. Again, vision blocks are moulded in. Got some hatch covers there, toolboxes, the side plates for the turret. Some quite fine detail here for, I think that's for the gun mantle. Some more quite tiny parts here. The hatch coupler comes in separate different parts to build up, which is nice. So lots of turret parts here. Couple of guns. So the gun barrels look nicely moulded. Clearly going to be more options coming out around this tank by the looks of it. So there's a small ejector pin mark on the muzzle, but otherwise the gun looks like there's not much clean-up required. And the last sprues out of the box are sprue G. There's two of these bagged together, which deals with the road wheels and suspension and in the main. So the road wheels seem to be really nicely cast. I like particularly the little sunken hole detail there around the hub. We've got the couplings for the toe points. Drive sprockets have a lovely rivet detail in there. No flash whatsoever. There's nice rivet detail on the wheel hubs. And we've got the suspension arms here. They appear to have sink. Don't know if we can pick that up. Just in the corner there. If we can see that. Appears to be sink there on some of them, and probably the heaviest seam lines are on those as well. There's not been much in the way of seam lines, to be honest, other than those. We've got the wire rope ends here, which are nicely moulded. Okay, that's it for the plastic part. And then finally we have a nice, fairly small decal sheet for the two versions included in the kit. So the instructions, sort of typical format for Airfix instructions of late. So we've got a nice digitally drawn picture there of the tank in the same format as the box art, a little bit of history, that little shout out for make sure you wash your sprue before you get going, which lots of people don't bother to read, but it's really important, I think. Then as we open up, we've got assembly instructions, gives you the various different symbols that will be used throughout the instructions. Step 1 starts with hull assembly, and I was right with my guess that these are stiffeners for the hull. So nice and clear. And we're building, oh that's interesting, so we're building an inside hull shell, then we're putting the suspension arms in, then we've got this outer plate which sort of sandwiches it together. More detail. Looks like we have an option there depending on whether we're doing A or B, which I guess we'll see when we get to the back end. Whether you want lifting hooks or whether they're being blanked out, that might be for the dozer blade possibly. Then more lower hull constructions, road wheels, as tanks go, not too bad on the road wheel front, Christie's type suspension. So as you build them up, calls them A, B and C, and then shouts out A, B and C in the assembly guide. Then we have track assembly. It's showing you where to put the link and length, or where to use the flexible track. Doesn't actually show you how to put the flexible track together, you have to work that out, but it is fairly clear. Then we've got the upper hull, a little bit of drilling to be done. Has a little reference photo, which is nice, that's a nice touch, which shows you this is with the photo etch, so a couple of photo etch beams there which go on the front, so that's nice. We've got more upper hull assembly, fender parts, back of the engine. That seems to be the exhaust shroud, that's the part we saw with which had quite a bit of sink on it. That's clearly an aftermarket replacement contender. Yeah, looks nice. I'm going to be building this straight out of the box without any aftermarket just to see how well it goes together. Then we've got some of the smaller details goes on top, which is nicely. The instructions are really clear actually. What I've not seen is any paint shout outs, which is interesting. That's something Airfix have always done in the past, but there is no colour shout outs on any of this. Maybe it's all one colour. And we've got assembly for the gun mantle, various toolboxes, machine gun in the front glacis plate there, turret assembly, more drilling. Looks like there's another option to be done there. Then we've got the assembly of some of the parts. That looks like sights there. Some of the small parts look like sight blades. Yeah, we can do the turret hatch open and closed. More toolboxes. Yeah, open and closed on that hatch, but obviously there's no interior detail, so unless you scratch building some or someone does an aftermarket resin set, you're going to have those closed. And then finally, yeah, those blanking plates were for that sort of dozer blade type thing. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm sure someone can tell me, but I'm going to be putting that on because it looks a bit cool. So we've got 24 steps in total. What's been noticeable is no paint shout outs. There is the base there for an aerial, but no aerial included. So a little bit of wire or stretch sprue will have to be done. Then we've got the part list. And there's a small section there lists out the unused parts. And then we've got the colour shout out. So let's have a look at these in a bit closer. So we've got this British Army Europe 1944-1945, which has some winter camouflage on the turret only, and then we have the paint shout out at the bottom. So they say there that their matte khaki drab 159 is an approximate to olive drab. And we've got the decal shout outs. And then if we go over the page, we have the other colour chart, which also British Army Europe 44-45, and that's the overall olive green colour. Right, so some of the parts that were put on earlier, they've shouted out the colour, the fire extinguishers I'm guessing, and the tools separately on this colour sheet. I would have preferred them to have shouted them out in the instructions personally, something Airfix have always done. I don't like having everything on one page. However, this is pretty much all one colour, so actually it's not too bad. Yeah, they seem to have gone with gunmetal for the track colour, which is interesting. So that is it for the instructions. So there you have it. What's my first impression of Airfix's new Cromwell tank in 135 scale? Looks absolutely gorgeous, to be honest. The parts are nice and crisp, nicely detailed. They've thought about construction, they've thought about the skill level of the modeller. The instructions are nice and clear. We've got some photo etch, we've got some nice decals that gives us two similar options. We've got this little blade thing which gives us a different look. They've called this a skill level 3, but I think it's the bottom end of skill level 3. It doesn't look overly complex from that point of view. Yeah, it's a nice kit. The retail price is in line with other brands, and a lot cheaper than some of the other premium sort of armoured fighting vehicle brands like New Tamiya and Tacom and the like. So I think this is a great entry for Airfix into 135 armoured fighting vehicles. Let's hope that there's lots more coming. This is really nice, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it builds up. Okay, take care everybody.